Are you from Chicago? Have you ever visited Chicago? Maybe you just like some of that Chicago deep dish style pizza. I know I do. Formerly, growing up in Chicago, the thing I missed most when I moved out of town, moved down to Texas, was good Chicago pizza. Actually, any kind of good pizza at the time I came down here. Now we're getting more good pizza down here, but the thing I miss are some of the good, legitimate, brand name Chicago pizzas. You know what I'm talking about, names like Lou Malnetti's, Giordano's, Uno's, Gino's East. Well, I'm going to give you a taste of Chicago-style deep dish pizza. Now there's somebody out in the market, I'm pretty sure they were on Shark Tank, making these little pizza cupcakes. I've tried them. They're not bad. Portnoy even gave them a pretty high rating. I'm kind of surprised he's given a high rating to a pizza cupcake that he got off of a food truck, but most of the time you get them in your grocery stores now. I'm going to show you how to make a fun size Chicago deep dish pizza that will remind you of back home. And if you're actually still in Chicago, these are great as appetizers for parties, for after school snacks. Just want a little taste of something in the evening? These are going to be awesome. So, I'm Ralph. Welcome to my kitchen. Let's get going. I've already greased some of the cupcake pans here. Now I've got both a metal pan and a silicone pan. Now I tried them both out earlier, and there's a reason to actually use both kinds. If you're making them for right now, the metal pan might work out a little bit better. If you're making them to freeze, and I do intend to freeze a bunch of these, you might have just a little bit more of an edge if you go with the silicone because they're not going to bake as thorough as they will in the metal pan that's going to be hotter on the sides. There's also a couple of different methods of doing the dough here. Now we're not making homemade fresh dough. I'm not trying to actually duplicate a Lou Malnetti's pizza. I'm just giving you a little bit of that flavor of a Chicago style deep dish pizza. So I'm going to go with two different things here. One, a Goya empanada dough, but it's not just the regular pie crust dough. This is the puff pastry dough. And then for a little bit more traditional, I'm going with just a store-bought pizza crust. This is not the thin crust, this is the regular crust. You're going to want that for more of a deep dish style pizza. First off, let me line some of these, and this is going to be about the size that we're going to want, about 5 inches in diameter. And we're going to be putting some of those into the cupcake tins, just lowering them down in there, pressing them against the sides, just forming the basis of a little cup. So I'm going to make a bunch of these, and then the others I'm going to use the actual pizza dough for. Choice is up to you. They're both going to turn out good. The pizza dough crust, a little bit more traditional, but if you want to save time, it's hard to beat something that's already cut up to be the right size. Okay, I've got all of the puff pastry little 5-inch disc put in. Now it's time to roll this out, the pizza crust, and we're going to be cutting little 5-inch disc out. Now as you can tell, this is a little bit more work than just using the Goya empanada disc. It's a better product, but it will take a little bit more time. So if you are in a big hurry, the empanada is the way to go. Here's my last one. Putting that in. I'm just going to give you a quick look here as to what these cups all look like. What I'm going to do next is I've got string cheese. This is going to become the first layer. I'm just going to take a scissors and cut up a bunch of these. This is going to be in the bottom. And I just want enough little pieces to kind of cover up the bottom of each cup. Got them full of the string cheese. Check this out. That's what they all look like now. Which leads us to shredded cheese. So on top of the string cheese, I'm going to spread a couple of fingers full of shredded cheese on top of that. Now the reason we're doing this is we are building up a little bit of a base so that when it comes time to put the sauce on, it's not going to be soaking the bottom of the dough and getting it all, moist. We want to save the integrity of the bottom of these things. And we're doing that by protecting the bottom with the cheese. And this is exactly how they put together the deep dish pizzas in Chicago, just on a more moderate sized scale. Okay, we've got a fairly decent amount of shredded cheese in here. Give you a quick look at that. Now for the fun part, sausage. Now I know pepperoni tends to be the most popular flavor in the United States, but in Chicago, the most popular flavor, I believe hands down, is going to be sausage. And that is exactly what we're going to be using, fresh, uncooked Italian sausage. Now you take it, flatten it out, right there in your hand, and we're going to lay that flattened out part right there on top. Now, most of y'all are probably thinking, Ralph, don't you want to cook that? No, I don't. That's going to be a big difference between what you find in, say, your traditional frozen pizzas, where they've cooked the sausage first, and a real pizzeria pizza where they don't. We are going to get so much more of the real sausage flavor when we're starting out with fresh. Now you're going to want to make sure you're flattening it out really good, because you want to make sure it's good and thin for getting cooked all the way through. Now I've got the oven preheating right now at 425. As you can see, you can just take it and kind of press it against your palm and it'll flatten it out. Now you can add additional toppings in addition to the sausage or instead of the sausage. There's mushrooms, there's pepperoni. I would kind of chop up the pepperoni since it's going to be in smaller little pizzas. I suppose you could put ham and pineapple. Haha, just kidding there you people from Chicago. I didn't really mean it. Or did I? People in Chicago are kind of famous for making fun of that combination. Okay. Now, with that, it's time for the sauce. Now, just like the dough, I did not make my own sauce because remember, we're talking about doing something quick. If you're doing this the traditional method, you'd be making your dough and you'd be letting it ferment for about 24 hours. And we don't have time to ferment dough for 24 hours to make little, fun size pizzas. So I'm using store-bought, in this case, Rao's homemade pizza sauce. And I am spoonfulling about 1 tablespoon onto each pizza here. And I'm kind of pressing it in a little bit. Make sure it's going to soak its way down. This is what's also going to make it easier when you freeze these, because you're going to have something that is going to freeze into a solid a little bit more than loose cheese would. Have you ever opened up a frozen pizza only to see some of the cheese, going all over the packaging? Yeah, that's what happens when you have something loose like that. But when you put sauce on, that's gonna turn fairly solid in the freezer and make it a whole lot easier to bag these up into freezer bags. Now, 2 more quick steps. We've got a little extra oregano that we're gonna be just kind of sprinkling lightly on top, and some real Parmesan, not that little fake stuff in those little green canisters. Just a little coating on top. You don't have to go crazy, but just to make it a little bit more legit. That's it, they're ready for the oven. Now the silicone tends to be a little bit floppy, so I am going to put that on another pan just to keep it solid. And into the oven they go, as I said earlier, 425 degrees. We're going to be doing that for about 16 minutes. So I'll see y'all in just a few minutes. Okay, I've just pulled them out of the oven, and I'm about to start pulling them out and putting them onto a cooling rack. Now, if you'll look at these in the metal tin, they are moving quite nicely here. So they should be coming out pretty easy. The ones in the silicone, not quite as much, but they're not expected to be very difficult either. So I'm going to work on pulling these out so I can get them cooled and just see how well they turn out. Okay, they have been cooling down for just a little bit. Now they're still very hot. I just wanted to show you what the pizza cupcake people are producing. That's what theirs looks like versus what ours are looking like. I don't know. What do you think? I think ours is looking a little bit more like a small size deep dish pizza. But let's give one a try. Let's cut one open here. This is what they're looking like inside. And before I actually do the taste test, let me mention that I did put a bunch in the freezer bag from an earlier batch that I did. Let me point out a difference between this was done in the metal container and this was done in the silicone. You'll notice that is a little bit more dark done. This is a little bit lighter, which is why I say the ones done in the silicone might be a little bit better for the freezing because they can take the reheating a little bit longer. I would put those into like a hot air fryer for maybe 350, 360 for maybe 3 minutes tops, and I think you'll be good. As for right now, let's see what we've got. And you'll notice that sausage is done inside. A little sloppy because it's hot, but really good. This is like a little slice of heaven. It's a little slice of home to me. This takes me back to Chicago. If you're from Chicago, if you ever wanted to go to Chicago and try the deep dish pizza, try this. It'll be a good reminder of Chicago. With that said, hit the like button if you like what we did. Subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I'd really appreciate it. Now we'll catch y'all the next time. Bye-bye. Good.